Yeah, you can make an estimate about the cost of road crashes. You have different techniques of doing that. Basically, you would like to put a price on the consequences of road crashes. That means that this society has a cost of something like 1.5 billion Australian dollars a year when it comes to road crashes. And that's a serious problem, because then we are talking about something like 2% of your gross domestic product. So in economical terms, it is very, very relevant indeed.
Research in my community, Portland, Oregon, has shown that those residents who live in a place that is transit friendly, that means it's pedestrian friendly. There are safe crossings of streets, there are sidewalks, you call them footpaths, other things. Those amenities mean that people walk a lot more. They don't just go from that front door to the car to get to essential services. As a result, they weigh about 5 pounds less. That's a little over a couple of kilos, and their health care costs are just under $6,000 less expensive than they would be for other residents.
My thought was that all of these programs that exist now in South Australia, all these innovations, one hand doesn't really know what the other hand is doing all the time. So for instance, SAPOL has a wonderful initiative on domestic violence and high-risk offenders. And I asked the question, is that tied in to the Family Violence Court? And the answer was no. And I thought, gosh, what an opportunity that's been missed, because if you have the two tied together, you know, it could be even stronger. And then I'm also strongly suggesting that the community have input so that they have ownership of the court's plans, the plans for corrections, the plans for the police, and they get input into how everybody acts.
Businesses here are hurting big time. So it's usually the case around the world that until I'm hurting that much, I'm not going to change. So how do you get that? Wait for a crisis. Oh no, with the benefit of hindsight, you'd have been saying this 10 years ago, and the crisis may not have come. Well, it would actually, the drought would still have come. Because companies, large and small, government agencies are thinking about today, and they're not thinking enough about tomorrow. And if they did, they'd be devoting, even if it's only small bits of their resources, time, brain power, effort into, now what does that mean for me? Yep. And as that becomes increasingly compelling, I'm ready to respond. Whereas what we've now got is a rush to catch up. And whenever you're rushing, you're going to be tripping over, and it's going to cost you more, and you'll make mistakes.
If we consider intelligent investment to be the relationship between design, planning, and development, those are codependent processes. They're complementary. But as it is now, the flow of decision-making, at least in South Australia or in the Adelaide context, goes from development, which is market-driven, planning, which is effectively policy-driven, and then designers are asked to consider what the possibilities are within that space or within that context. If we reverse the flow and go from design to planning to development, we're effectively opening up opportunities and innovation within that space.
Technology is always moving ahead. I think as an anthropologist, one of the things I know is that as people, we don't move anywhere near as quickly as the technology does. And the things we care about as a culture, as a society, as families, communities, that stuff is remarkably stable over time. So for me, one of the reasons to do the kind of work I've done is that establishing what it is that we care about as a society, as a culture, as a state, once you know those things, that stuff doesn't change. The technology rolls ahead in leaps and bounds, but once you know what it is we're going to care about and what motivates us, it's much easier to think about how to link those things back together again. And then it absolutely becomes a question of timing and of vision, and also of knowing that what we say the technology will look like now may be very different than what it actually turns out to be implemented 5 years from now.